Even just a few years ago, I wouldn't have believed this story at all if you told it to me. And now, the more I think about it, the more it makes perfect sense. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with this rumor going around about Microsoft possibly bringing some of their games over to the Nintendo Switch, as well as Xbox Live and maybe even Game Pass. And if you haven't heard about this and think it sounds nuts, stay with me, it's really not. Like I said, these rumors have been circulating for a while and have just been picking up more and more steam. Microsoft had that panel announcement that was described as a cross-platform push for Xbox Live and was said to be including the Nintendo Switch. Now, this didn't seem that crazy, really, with all the games Microsoft is already offering up cross-platform play with. Maybe this just had to do with small things like achievements and the like. Yeah, not a big deal. But then, the story started to develop, and we began hearing about the potential of Game Pass coming over to the Switch, which is Microsoft's subscription service that gives you access to a catalog of over 100 games, as well as some retailers listing Microsoft games as being Switch-bound. The two that I'm starting to see the most evidence mount for, that I also believe would make the most sense as sort of an initial wave, are Ori and the Blind Forest and Cuphead, two smaller indie titles published by Microsoft that many have yearned to have on the Switch, but thought to be largely impossible. I've noticed much of the hype with these two seems to be centered around Cuphead, the classic cartoon-stylized, tough-as-nails platformer, which is an amazing game, but let me tell you guys, if these titles do come over and you haven't played Ori and the Blind Forest, whatever you do, do not sleep on that game. Gorgeous Metroidvania game that has some serious feels packed in it. If you liked Hollow Knight, you're definitely going to want to check that game out. There was also this French website recently that became the latest corroborating source for these rumors, and they also added that Switch owners would be in store for a big title as well, like a Halo or Gears of War. And if they brought something like the Master Chief Collection over to the Switch, when you think about it, all those games originally ran on the 360, that would be insane. Or how about something like the Rare Replay Collection? How hilarious would that be if Microsoft ended up giving us a better collection of classic Nintendo games on the Switch than Nintendo themselves? And a lot of their newer games could even also be potentially brought over with the xCloud. We've already seen other companies experiment with cloud gaming on Switch. Microsoft has confirmed they're jumping into the streaming game, so there are just a ton of possibilities. But let's not put the cart before the horse just getting hyped up about playing these Microsoft games on Switch. Why does it make sense for these companies to do something like this now? Well, Microsoft, for a long time, has seemed to be venturing more towards having Xbox be a service rather than just a home console. Still a home console, but widening the range of game distribution. We've seen Xbox Game Pass, the Xbox Play Anywhere initiative, and even more recently, like I said, the xCloud. It's all about broadening the audience here, and I think that is hard for some people to grasp who still have that console war mentality. You know, many are still like, oh, well, that was stupid of them to do the Play Anywhere thing because now I'm just going to buy the game on PC and not get an Xbox. That's fine, as long as you're playing the game. The Xbox console is just one means of delivering the content to you. PC is another one, which they obviously have a huge stake in PC as well. Their current mindset seems to be more akin to streaming services for like TV and movies. Amazon has Amazon Prime, right? Amazon also has this device called the Fire Stick that they sell, which allows you to watch Amazon Prime as well as other apps on your TV. But you can also download the app for free on smart devices, including smart TVs, as well as consoles, without the stick. Now, could Amazon sell more Fire Sticks if they made them required to watch Amazon Prime? Sure, but they'd rather opt for reaching a wider audience by making it easier for people to get the service on all their devices hassle-free. That's sort of the route Microsoft has been going. If you buy the console, great. If you opt to play the games in a different way that they offer, that's awesome too. And when I think about Microsoft's current ecosystem, as well as this Play Anywhere mentality, bringing it to something like the Switch makes all the sense. While the two are still console competitors, as we've seen more and more lately, they seem to be getting along very well. And the Switch, I think Microsoft would see as something that would complement their current users. If you're someone who already has an Xbox, is paying for Game Pass, and find out the Switch can sort of be an extension of that, allowing you to access these games that Xbox owners already love on the go, I think that would make the Switch very enticing to them. And on the Switch end, they're getting this influx of games to play, and maybe those users will be enticed to get a PC or an Xbox to get full enjoyment out of them. You know, one of the things I've said from the start of Microsoft and Nintendo's newfound friendship that would be insane for me is if we got some games with cross-save functionality. With what it sounds like they're offering up here, I could totally see this becoming a reality. Because take something even like Ori and the Blind Forest. Looks gorgeous running on my Xbox One X, but would probably have to encounter some downscaling to some of the particle effects in that to run on the Switch. So I'd still probably prefer to play the Xbox One version on my TV, but if I could play that version on my TV but then pick up my same save on the Switch while I'm out on the go, that would really sweeten the deal. And again, I think it would make people on either side, if you're someone who solely owns an Xbox or someone who solely owns a Switch, at least more intrigued about the other. And if we do end up seeing some bigger games added to this, again, if they bring in these sorts of features, oh man, this next gen could get really interesting. Like I said, I know I don't want to get ahead of myself, but something like Doom. I know it's third party, but Doom is currently on Game Pass. If I play it on my Xbox, I can play it in 4K, 60 frames, the whole deal. But as I said in my review for the Switch version, man, I love playing that game on the go. If I could get the best of both worlds, it's crazy the places this could go. In terms of benefits also on Nintendo's end, obviously they get more games for people to play. With anything that ends up getting sold straight up on the eShop, they'll obviously get a cut of that. And I think if Game Pass does come over in some form, they'd somehow get a piece of that. I'm sure Microsoft and Nintendo would work out a deal that's beneficial to both parties. Anything that gives us more potential for rare games to come over to the Switch, I'm totally down with. And something like Xbox Live integration could do a lot to beef up the Switch Online experience. I don't know how far it would go, but even something like achievements in the Microsoft games would be a fun feature. Lord knows Nintendo needs any help they can get in their online offerings. But before I close this out, let's also not forget, amidst this buddy-buddy knocking down barriers and all talk, who has been largely dominating the console game lately? Sony. You want to talk about a blow? Especially now, both Sony and Microsoft are no doubt focused on their next generation systems, and if you're going into that with this news, I think that could very well spell trouble for Sony going forward, and I'm sure both Microsoft and Nintendo realize that as well. Sony definitely has the most momentum going into the next gen as of right now, but a major partnership between the other two of the big three could turn the tide. I'm sure there's a little consideration of that going into this. You know, there's a common interest here. As friendly of a picture as people might want to paint this, everybody wants to be number one. And if you're feeling like you're in places second and third, yeah, why not team up to take out the number one? But anyway, with that, this video's a wrap. Let me know your thoughts on this potential budding romance between Nintendo and Microsoft in the comments. Do you think it makes sense for both companies? And what games and features from Microsoft would you like to see make their way over to the Switch? Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this discussion of what could be an even stronger bond forming with Microsoft and Nintendo. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. If you want to keep the conversation going, hit me up on Twitter @JohnnyZakari and join my Discord, ChiGuy and Friends. Link to both in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching.